Imagine you're living 10,000 years ago. There are no countries, no governments, no police, no laws, and most importantly, no kings. For most of human history, nobody ruled the world. So here's a strange question. If there were no kings, then how did the first king ever appear? Who was the first person to stand up and say, "I am your ruler now"? And why did everyone else listen? The answer is one of the most important stories in human history. Because the first king didn't just rule a city, he changed the future of civilization forever. Thousands of years ago, humans lived very differently from today. People traveled in small groups. They hunted animals, gathered fruits and plants, and moved whenever food became scarce. Life was difficult, but one thing was simple. Nobody had much power over anyone else. There were leaders, of course, the strongest hunter, the wisest elder, the bravest warrior, but these people weren't kings. Nobody wore crowns, nobody sat on golden thrones, nobody owned entire cities. In fact, if someone tried to boss everyone around, the group could simply leave. So for thousands of years, kings didn't exist. Then something happened. Humans discovered farming, and everything changed. For the first time, people could grow food instead of constantly searching for it. Villages appeared, then towns, then cities. Instead of 50 people living together, there were hundreds, then thousands. But bigger communities created bigger problems. Imagine a city with thousands of people. Someone steals food. Two farmers argue over land. A neighboring city attacks. Who decides what happens? Suddenly, people needed organization. They needed leadership. At first, cities chose leaders during emergencies, especially during war. When enemies attacked, people followed the strongest warrior they could find, and usually that warrior gave orders. Protect the walls, gather supplies, defend the city. When the war ended, something interesting happened. Some leaders didn't want to give up their power, and some people didn't want them to. After all, if a leader had successfully protected the city, why replace him? So temporary leaders slowly became permanent rulers. But there was a problem. Being strong wasn't enough. A ruler needed people to obey him even when there wasn't a war. And that's where one of history's smartest tricks appeared. Religion. Many early rulers claimed they had been chosen by the gods. Think about that for a moment. If a ruler says, "I am stronger than everyone else," people might challenge him. But if he says, "The gods chose me to rule," that's much harder to argue with. Suddenly, leadership became something sacred, something special, and the ruler gained even more power. Over time, these rulers controlled food storage. They controlled armies. They made laws. They collected taxes. And the more resources they controlled, the stronger they became. Then came the biggest change of all. Instead of choosing a new ruler every time, power started staying inside one family. When a ruler died, his son became the next ruler, then his son after him. For the first time in history, royal families were born, and so were kings. But who was the very first king? That's actually harder to answer than you might think. Many early rulers lived so long ago that their names have been lost forever. But historians have discovered the name of one of the earliest kings known to history, a ruler from an ancient city called Kish. His name was Enmebaragisi. Most people have never heard of him, yet he may have been one of the earliest kings whose existence can actually be confirmed. And here's the funny part. He probably didn't wear a crown, at least not the kind we imagine today. No sparkling jewels, no giant palace, no golden throne. The first kings were more like military leaders. Their power came from armies, resources, influence, and authority. Not fancy clothes. The image of kings wearing crowns would come much later, but one ruler would take kingship to a whole new level. His name was Sargon, And unlike earlier rulers, Sargon wasn't satisfied with ruling one city. He wanted more, much more. He conquered neighboring cities, then more cities, then entire regions, one victory after another. Soon he controlled a territory larger than anyone had ruled before. Many historians consider him the founder of one of the world's first empires. For the first time, huge numbers of people lived under a single ruler. The Age of Kings had truly begun. And once the idea spread, it spread everywhere. Egypt had kings, China had kings, Europe had kings. Across the world, people accepted a strange idea that one person could rule millions. But here's the fascinating part. Kings weren't invented because people loved crowns or royal palaces. Kings appeared because large societies became complicated. Someone had to organize food. Someone had to manage armies. Someone had to settle disputes. The king was originally a solution to a problem. Only later did kings become symbols of wealth, luxury, and absolute power. Some kings became heroes. Others became tyrants. Some built incredible civilizations. Others destroyed them. But every king in history can trace his power back to the same simple beginning. A village became a city. A city needed a leader. A leader gained power. And one day, that leader became a king. Today, most countries no longer depend on kings. Many people choose their leaders through elections. Yet we're still fascinated by kings and queens. We watch movies about them. We read stories about them. We wonder what life inside a palace was really like. Because deep down, we're fascinated by one question. How does one human gain power over everyone else? And the answer began thousands of years ago. Not with a crown, not with a throne, but with a simple idea that one person should lead many. And that's why the world's first king had no crown,